Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Farrell, Artistic Director of Painting, Drawing, and Printmaking, and our Artists in Residence program. Welcome to our Artists in Residence slide night. I want to welcome our virtual participants watching tonight as well as our Board of Trustees and members of our National Council. Thank you for your support. 16 artists just arrived at the ranch and will be working in the studios here for the next 5 weeks. We'll be hearing from each of them tonight. Before we begin, please silence your cell phones. And for our land acknowledgement, Anderson Ranch acknowledges that our campus resides on the traditional ancestral territory of the Ute people, who call the Roaring Fork Valley and beyond home for over 800 years. Through our mission to promote a wide range of arts, cultures, and voices, we commit to partnering with and honoring the indigenous ancestors and residents of the sacred land where we learn, work, and create. So please join me in welcoming our artists in residence. Whoops.
Whoa. Hi, what a great privilege it is to be here. Thank you. A few years ago, I might have identified as a mixed media artist, installation artist, or something, but I will now say I'm a born-again ceramist. I'm committed to ceramics for the time being anyway. Oh, right, it's up to me. One of the most conceptually and formally thoughtful pieces I've done is this one that was 365 days of the New York Times banner headlines. Each day was decaled onto one individual mug. The mugs began as these big monstrosities, and month by month, they were arranged by shelves by months. They diminished in size, although the headlines were just as monstrous throughout the whole year. So, installation view, and then a few more of them at the end. But you can see that when they get tiny, people said, oh, they're so cute, but meanwhile it says something like, military covertly plans for a war it doesn't want, or, such. Lidded jar, 2025. I've been working figuratively. In my own mind, I don't want to be literal. There's a lot of great figurative ceramics, and I just don't even want to touch it. So I'm working figuratively in a different way. And I'm interested in all of the protrusions and bulges and orifices and abnormalities and irregularities of bodies, and in particular, like amongst families or intentional or otherwise. So everyone knows, for example, that little guy who's all handle and no mug, if you know what I mean. Somebody, yes. Oh, 1 minute, geez. Okay, well, a special thank you to Noelle Choi. Emboldened me yesterday's talk to make it a little more personal. Up top, if anyone knows of a better 4-word proverb, please let me know. Notice what you notice. At the bottom is an unfired piece of work, a sketch for what I'll be doing here. And for real, this is the kind of thing that excites me. There's so much going on here on the campus. This is what I noticed. These PVC pipes breathing steam and liquid and so on. I would like to cede the rest of my time to the senator from New York City.
Hey everyone, my name is Emily B. Yang. So in my work, I play with imaginary visual languages. The narratives that I've been thinking about lately are narratives of diasporic storytelling, feminist cultural speculation, and also something interesting about me newly interesting probably is that I also have a day job as a federal worker. And so, if you've been reading the news, something you might have seen is that my colleagues and I are facing a threat of removal from our work. And this passage was sort of making the rounds on some art websites that I was looking at. But it was a declassified World War II CIA simple sabotage field manual, sorry for the long name, about disrupting oppressive systems. And then one of the strategies in it is to work slowly, think out ways to increase the number of movements necessary for your job. So I won't comment on how I'm doing at my day job, but in terms of my artistic work, I've been thinking about how to work really, really slowly, working slowly as a form of resistance. So here's an example. The previous thing that I made was a block print. This is a hand-built vessel, and then I also carved the surface as well. This is maybe 2 years ago, kind of when that idea was blooming for me. And then this is like maybe a year ago where I began adding more steps. I carve a block print and then I print it onto the surface and then I carve it again. And then when I'm here, I'm gonna think about what are the other steps I should add? Should I then use this to print? Like, how can I keep adding as many steps as I can to work as slowly as possible? And something that also has come up for me as I sort of imagine the way that I'm working, this like tedious, slow way, I imagine it as like, maybe it's like a speculative fiction about a future way of working where everyone is working as slowly as possible, as tediously as possible, laboring over, for me, it's like laboring over these vessels that tell stories about me, tell stories about people like me, people that I love. This one in particular is about it's to commemorate my grandmother after she passed away. It's about the circular nature of life. And then this is the block print for it. Oops, I should have, This is the block print of it. It's the same images previously, but I also like seeing it on paper as well, hand printed. Thank you.
Oh my God, I haven't expected it. I just started. Oh, can I start? Yes. Yeah. Hello, I'm Sang-woo. I'm born and raised in Korea, and I have a background of both archaeology and also fine art, especially in sculpture. And when I was young, I especially loved the objects that carries the weight of time. So I love visiting museum, and that kind of experience made me, work as an archaeologist before. So I actually worked at an excavation site, and I could see a lot of strata at there, which reminds me of accumulation of deep time. And so I always question myself that how do I tell time, or how do I build a durational of deep time? So yeah, and then I studied abroad, and I moved to Chicago, and the image on the right side is a Christmas tree located in the center of Millennium Park, and that photo was taken my first winter in Chicago. And then I feel something strange feeling from the Christmas tree, and which is from the time, disconnection of time between time as a decoration, for 2 months, and time as a life, which is 100 years old. And I was thinking about how can I show the duration of time, and how can I show the sense of loss. And this work is consists of pine dust, having a natural pine sand, which is 20 feet long. And when people can come into space, they can feel the smell. Only 1 minute, okay? Yes, so, okay. And then I started to thinking about where this Christmas tree originally came from. So a couple of research, I revisit the one forest in Colorado, and after the project, at the time I was thinking about this relationship between material and site. So I returned these dust back to their original sites and make them as a rework, as a catalyst for the emergence of new life. So there was a work that transformed the tree into the incense that have a certain soft scent of pine tree, and I also burned the incense that I made at there. So yeah, that's what I prepared today. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hello, my name is Isa Ganam. I'm from the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and I'm in the print department. I work in print, photography, dance, sculpture, and sound. And my work is heavily influenced by my childhood growing up as a ballet dancer, being around costumes and set design. And then I also like to say that my work is an expression of the indexical essence of ancestral memory. That being said, a majority of my work serves as a love letter to the ancient Near East. This installation here is titled Furnace of the Spirits. It's a 10 by 10 by 10 foot installation with etchings on the walls and some sconces made of various metals. And in the center of the room, there's a subwoofer covered in a handmade paper piece. And as the sound came out of the subwoofer, the paper piece added to the space and the sound itself. At the time, I was coming across a lot of philosophies around immortality, both from a literal bodily perspective, as well as a more metaphoric technological perspective, and I found them both quite concerning. And then simultaneously, I was super interested in the metallurgic process of cupellation, which derived in the ancient Near East, which is where you refine a base metal into a noble metal like gold in a furnace. And I found that the decomposition process of the body really mirrored the colors of base metal refining into a metal like gold in the cupellation process. So I wanted to express death as a refinement process and a goal to be achieved rather than something to be avoided. And then this is basically an artist book that I made that went along with the installation, and each CD had the sound piece on it. And then this installation is called Fearful Cemetery. In the center of those prints there is an electroformed piece of copper vessel, and then there's also sound and a projection in this installation. And the sound itself involved my brother and I reciting William Blake's The Tiger over and over again. And I think something that's important to mention in my work is also asymmetry. Asymmetry became very important because I feel like symmetry has such a hold on us aesthetically, especially when it comes to the body and to beauty. So I really wanted to assert asymmetry in my work to sort of like heal that in some way, whether it be really drastic asymmetry or just really slight asymmetry. Yeah, and I think that's what I'll say for now. Thank you so much.
Okay, microphones. Okay. My name is Lily Luna Bennett, Lily Bennett, whatever. So I'm a sculptor, but I also have backgrounds in all sorts of things. These photos that you'll see are from my show last spring, from my thesis show. So they're somewhat specific. But this is an installation view. It's all made out of denim. And then I use different techniques for the armatures underneath. The columns on the left, and the building is the Supreme Court facade building on the right. I enjoy using material as metaphor, so the denim, a symbol of American fashion, community, people, and then mixed with this architecture from our government buildings. Another shot of The installation, I kind of forgot what photos I put up here. So all bleached denim that I either glue or sew onto the armatures of steel, a mixture of steel, foam, wood, whatever it takes to kind of make the shape. Very fun to make. Oh, that's me. It's nice to see the scale. I guess that's why I put it in there. These are welded sculptures also in that show. The surface is also denim, bleached and then dyed, or just the blue denim. It was the only bright color in the show, and the only kind of figure, non-architectural symbol in the show. My background is actually in ceramics, and these are breastplates I made that were in the show, that were hand-carved porcelain that my friend is modeling, but in the show they were also like there in person. Do I have another? So this was also in the show. This was modeled after Constantine's foot in Italy, the ruin. I'm really interested in ruins and kind of the ideological ghosts that they are. But the surface is this blended clothes that is really tactile, which I'll be doing a little bit of here. I think that's it. Thank y'all.
Hello, I'm Ash Campbell. Oh, is it this one? Yes. So, I'm gonna bring you guys a little down, but don't worry, we're gonna bring her back up. But my work and the things that I make are heavily influenced by my childhood. And here, that little nugget there is me, and those are my parents. And both of my parents have passed away. I know what you're thinking, that's super, but it's actually brought kind of a new outlook on grief and object permanence and how we deal with those things, especially in Western civilization. And I focus heavily on like my adolescence and my childhood with that. So my work comes off as very kind of fun and colorful, but if you spend 10 minutes with me, I'll probably make you cry, and I don't mean that. But so I made this piece kind of for my parents. There's 3 roses for the 3 of us and a candle. I think candles are objects of that hold great spiritual value, and I think they're just a great thing that we don't do very often. Altars are not usually something that we do in Western civilizations, and I think having objects as important aspects in our life are healing, or at least I've found them healing. But with that being said, I do have a lot of kind of silliness to my work. I grew up watching cartoons, and so that comes out a lot in my playfulness. Cartoons were also a sort of a comfort zone for me, like growing up in kind of a rocky home. I kind of loved having, cereal and watching cartoons in the morning before school. And I'm also heavily influenced by movements of architecture that sort of were kind of rebelling against sort of like the normal, like postmodernism and things that were like, hey, we don't have to make things be on a white background with normal shapes, and we can actually get crazy. I am a more is more kind of person. And I also get a lot of influence from the films that I watched in the 90s. For some reason, I have a kindred spirit with Edward Scissorhands, who was kind of an outsider in the movie. He was kind of like this lone wolf and then came down and made these beautiful sculptures, and I relate to that because I kind of am a loner and try to make colorful objects that bring joy to people. I want to sort of create objects that remind people that it's cool to be playful and wonderful, and there's softness to life in a hard life. So at the ranch, I'm actually going to be doing a lot of color experiments. And I asked my friend ChatGPT to name some of my colors for me that I might be doing based off of my work. So here's some of my work that I've done, and another lamp and candelabra situation. And so I'm going to tell you some of my favorites. Mint anxiety, sadness salmon, pale melon fog, nostalgia lavender, disappointment green. I don't know where they're getting these, y'all. I just give them the photos and they just tell me. So I don't know what that says. Maybe the robots. And of course, I said thank you for the suggestions because I'm not trying to make the robots mad. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kaylee. I am a furniture and lighting designer based in Mystic, Connecticut. I use functional objects as a way of exploring themes related to inheritance and impermanence, and I see my objects as pieces of tribute. The origins of this theme, similar to Ash, is twofold. First, being the loss of my mother to ovarian cancer, and subsequently the realization that women have been largely underrepresented in the design world, particularly in the world of furniture design. The work I'm sharing today is an intimate and personal view into the experience of processing my grief, the nuanced role women have played in design history, and how we can honor and preserve undervalued legacies. Pirouette, this first piece, is a set of rotating trays and is meant to reposition the work of Ray Eames, and particularly her background in abstract expressionism and explorations of dance, studying under Martha Graham. The shifting positions of the trays and resulting relationship of the positive and negative form reflects the movement of the body as it travels through space. The sycamore used for this piece comes from the Dupree house, or the property where the Dupree house was, which was a house that the Eameses designed for the founding family of Herman Miller. The form was then abstracted from a topographical map of the property, which acts as a commemorative imprint honoring the historic site where the material came from. This next piece is called, it's a triptych called Threshold Screens, and they stand at different heights, the verticality representing the height of 3 different women. I have selected actually to work with aluminum flashing for this piece because I was really interested in working with the material directly with my body and allowing for this physical engagement to allow form to emerge. And the material also acts as metaphor. It's reflecting, but also absorbing. It's illuminating our relationship to the surrounding environment, but also like disrupting what's right in front of us. And the folding undulations call into question the positioning of a perspective. I've chosen to use symbols from my own lineage as a way of retethering myself to my own heritage, using imagery found in Celtic metalwork, which was typically found on armor and meant to signify endless protection. The Renaissance chair follows the curves of the female figure. She's meant to hold the body, but also is almost a reflection of herself. This piece explores sensuality and movement through the archetype of the chair. And the Vesta collection, which was named after the Greek goddess of the hearth and home, is a piece, this was a collection that I did for my MFA, my thesis work at RISD last year. And I was interested in using aluminum. This is also aluminum flashing and then walnut. And the aluminum references the folds and softness of fabric, while the patina is achieved through a water-based soaking process, acknowledging a visual language historically associated with textile craft. I was interested in blending my background in traditional woodworking as a way to merge this landscape of dualities of permanence and impermanence, and commentary on how these constructs have been tied to traditionally female and male-dominated craft practices. And then finally, I just wanted to include this last slide. This is the most recent work I've done for my wedding, which was this past October. And I'm just finding it really interesting to be in this place where am experiencing the greatest love and like the most intense grief I've ever been through simultaneously. And I think as an artist, it's a really interesting place to be, and I'm looking forward to continuing this theme of my work while I'm here. So thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary. I am a printmaker and I work in mixed media as well. Along with printmaking and working with paper, I do a lot of weaving and fabric piecing. And so a lot of my imagery in printmaking is influenced by weaving and the fabric piecing as well. So these are two large wood cuts, 48 by 36. The title of this series, these are two of about 10 or 12. The title is Chorus. So when I think about weaving, I think of it as being symbolic of the interconnection between all living beings. So human to human and human to the rest of nature. I made these during the most isolating part of COVID, when I couldn't see family or friends or my students. My mom was in the ICU with COVID and we couldn't visit her, and she survived that, but it was just a really stressful time. And so I envisioned these shapes. It's musical, they're like musical notes, but also I was thinking about, we're all existing individually, but also all together in life. These are 4 monoprint linoleum block prints, and they're part of a series of about 60 prints. So I don't really do straight editions anymore. I'm much more interested in varying the editions. So for all of these prints, I used just 2 matrices, carved lino blocks, and I used stencils and different colored inks to change each one. I kind of think about, I kind of think about variable editions as like days. So the structure is the same, but then each day is different. So the title of this ongoing series is called Regeneration. I am trying to be more like nature and reusing things instead of wasting so much. So I often cut up my prints and collage them to reconfigure them. I also love collaborating with other artists. So I've done a lot of collaborative projects. This is one where my colleague and students from the University of South Carolina worked together with faculty and students from other universities, and we all individually etched these steel plates. And then when we got together, we had to work with each other to ink them up and make them work together. And we spent a whole day making, I believe, 6 5 by 5 foot prints. And the last thing that I'll show, I was invited a few years ago to Svalbard, Norway, to the global seed vault, where there's seeds from all over the world. And we each made projects that were permanently planted in the seed vault. And we were asked to focus on seeds and the connection between nature and culture. And so I made these tiny little books with patterns of seeds based on my family being farmers and gardeners. So, thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Henry Merker. I'm working in the wood and furniture department, and I'm from Philadelphia. Go Birds. So, yeah, I'm an artist working through the medium of design. I'm obsessed with rare shapes. It's the pursuit that drives my work. So as you can see, I enjoy creating things within the scope of specific design objects, lighting, mirrors, other such things. I'm also a digital artist. I love animation. But yeah, recently I've been getting really into things like mirrors. So I find mirrors very fascinating as frames and ways of reflection. And it's just exciting for me to be able to work more planar. So I can think more illustratively. I love deep sea creatures and other bizarre oddities of the world. And so some of that kind of seeps into my work. So on the left is a recent project I did for Yowie, the design shop in Philly. It's one of the best places ever. Go stop by there if you're ever there. And Yowie does little group shows that are all themed on a singular object. So the one on the left here is titled Portrait of Loose Change. It's a reflection of my economic state. And it's a piggy bank. So this is for the piggy bank show, which is coming up on April 5th. And on the right are just some sketches, just some things I was doing on the lathe, trying to have fun with the forms. So I recently just wrapped up a residency with the Museum for Art and Wood in Philadelphia, along with Next Fab, which is a makerspace in the area. And I was studying cork. And so cork is a beautiful material. It is 100% sustainable in every aspect of the way that word means. It was fascinating working with it. So on the left, I was, kind of incorporating some of the doodles that I do into this cork lighting. And on the right, I actually put the, reconstituted the cork back in. So everything that I shaved off from the lathe turning, I was able to recycle and press back into the lamp on the far right here. So it was a really wild process. I was astonished it actually worked. If you ever want to get into this process, by the way, please talk to me. I would love to talk about it. It's an incredible material. So here at the ranch, I've been thinking about this one project I did in the winter, which is the project on the left here. It's just a wall sconce. And I was really excited to get into this sort of motif and using these techniques of cascading concentric shapes to produce some really soft light. So on the left is the prototype, and on the right is an unfinished piece that I'm kind of using as a jumping off point here. So I brought it in, and it's going to be the first thing that I'm going to sort of wrap up. But I'm hoping to work with these motifs and get a little wilder with the shapes and see what I can really accomplish. And so I'm just really excited to be here. And yeah, thank you all.
Hi, I'm Jess. I am a resident in painting. Yeah, and most of my practice sort of stems from an interest in the work we do in our homes. We all do work at home, and especially the aesthetic work we do at home. We all sort of make choices about how our houses look, what things we put in them, and I think that's sort of by making that space, you sort of make yourself. It's a feedback loop. And I was making these paintings that I wanted to be almost the scale of a little closet. So they're called alcoves. They're about 8 feet tall, and they stand up on their own. Yeah, and what I was thinking about was Renaissance and Mannerist paintings that are made for specific interiors, churches or palaces, and the way that those paintings sort of made those places important for people. They sort of make this setting for those acts that took place within them. And if you had paintings in your home like that, that sort of became part of the space, they were part of the wall rather than independent objects, how would those paintings sort of make a setting for your own life? And the things that happen there and making those things sort of important in the same way. So this is a room in the house where I lived at the time. The paintings are on canvas, they come off the wall. And then part of the project was also living with those paintings afterwards. Like it was just our dining room, we just, used it as a space where we lived. And we held events there, we invited people there, and sort of to blur the space in between an art space and a living space, and sort of like what that was like to live with art in that way. Yeah, and so since then I've been really interested in gardens, because I think it's a way of taking that domestic labor, that sort of work that you do to make yourself by making a space, and you're doing that in collaboration with sort of the natural world and these uncontrollable forces. And I think that's really interesting. So I started making these paintings last year about gardens, and I'm doing more of that here and sort of thinking about how they can occupy space more sculpturally as well in a different way. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm also a painting resident. My practice centers the act of painting as a personal ritual and a part of a routine. Painting serves as an outlet for processing the intangible by tying these experiences to a visual vocabulary. In this way, my process is an integral part of a painting's narrative rather than being a means to an end. Routine, familiarity, and domesticity are central concepts that guide my selection of imagery. I use polyester film to make stencils, which allow me to quickly repeat and recontextualize imagery. Over time, the images from various sources and periods of my life and trains of thought accumulate and expand on the archive of stencils from which I draw from. And with each new iteration, between paintings, I'm able to use the same imagery and recontextualize it in an entirely new kind of environment. So the images shift and evolve kind of between paintings. Through this repetitive process of layering and kind of additive and subtractive acts, I oscillate between redundancy and novelty as I repeat and layer the same imagery. I encounter unexpected results from which I can react to and expand on. So I'm decontextualizing imagery with nostalgic and familiar connotations, whether they're inherent to the object or image or personal. And exploring nostalgia with a sense of self-awareness, kind of a longing for a past or a reality that I'm aware has never existed. And similarly, creating an entirely new image or combination of objects that can capture a sense of familiarity that paradoxically challenges its newness. So I want to interrupt and challenge a logical sense of space and time within a painting and strive to capture a sense of chaos that's tempered by an internal logic of the painting with moments of dynamism and moments of stillness. So I'm interested in creating these nonlinear narratives in which meaning can shift and evolve as you look, and in this way looking becomes a way of thinking, and the shapes and objects can take on a sensibility that is similar to language, and that their meaning and connotation shifts depending on their context, and creating spaces for introspection that mimic the complexity of lived experiences with layered, ambiguous, and ever-changing elements. That's all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Najari Anderson, and I am a resident and sculptor here. My work is complicated in a lot of ways. I am a sculptor by training, but I kind of, anytime people ask me about my practice, I always say I just make things. And I mean that in the sense where it's like I have, I think, challenges with making decisions in terms of like funneling my practice into a very specific focal point. A lot of my work stems from digital space. I immigrated to America from Jamaica when I was really young, and so I learned, or the way that I accessed American culture was primarily through pop culture and digital space of the internet. And so a lot of my work navigates the spaces of exploitation that happen from my upbringing, but then also the ways in which I can parse these through in the works I make. This first piece here is a copper and iron 3D printed figurative sculpture titled Gully Queen, which is borrowed from a Vice article from a few years back. Gully Queen is a derogatory term used to define non-gender conforming folks in Jamaica or in the Caribbean who have been persecuted to the point where they have to literally live in gullies through the threat of like actually being like killed. Personally, for me, it was about navigating my proximity to that kind of violence and also challenging like the biases and prejudices within my own family, and then looking at actual figurative sculpture as a way to potentially honor the presence of that figure. This next work, Fountain, was actually my entryway into 3D printing as a making process. So this was the first digital digifab sculpture that I made, the first 3D printed sculpture I made. It is titled Fountain because the stomach is a reservoir that fills with herbal tea and it gradually empties itself. So if you see that central image right there, there's actually a trail seeping from the navel, and so it gradually stains the base that it stands on. This was 3D printed entirely out of iron, but it navigates relationships of hunger between myself and my upbringing in the Caribbean. My work has been kind of moving away from a lot of this like hyperfigurative work in a more public space. This is a still from a work in progress called Vessel, and I'm building a like living digital archive for Black memories. This was like a project that I like came up with in order to like process like the relics that people left me when they passed away, because I had a bunch of objects and I didn't know how to honor them. And then into larger public activation installation, this is a still from a solo show that I did in Spain this past November called Saudade, and it was a site-specific installation where I went and I installed this kind of temporary African immigration office, speaking about the kind of the dangers of the passage across the Mediterranean for folks migrating into Europe from Africa. Then also around this time, immigration was a really hotbed topic during the election, but then also looking at my position as an immigrant and like how can I, you know, stage a space of use that kind of is in this constant state of like disrepair. So that's my work. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm Shan Wu. I'm originally from Taiwan and now based in Los Angeles. And my background is in 3D animation and film and photo, and I branch out to sculptures and installation. And I'm gonna show you some of my photo work. So my material kind of like bounce like back and forth, but I'm just obsessed with materials and process. And the subject that I work with, some of them are about me being a Taiwanese, being an immigrant, my relationship with language and politics, especially with Chinese censorship and how that informed me being in the US and what that means to me personally. And also, like, I don't want to just work with just my identity, so I have subject about and space. I'm really obsessed with like space and sites and the history that entail the space and how people work with the space. And I'm talking really fast because I want to show you a film that I'm working on. So I'm in Photo Lab, and I am working on a project that is of extension of this project. And this is, so on the right, it's a picture. So I print out this picture. I took the picture in 35 millimeter photography, and I printed, enlarge it, and then print it on transparent stickers, and then put it on the 16 millimeter film. And I'm thinking about the duration. When you are taking a picture, you are like capturing this moment, and then in this process, I'm extending it out into another experience to remember this moment. Let's see. Oh, it didn't come out. All right, I think if you are interested, like, it will be, please come to Photo Lab, and I will show it to you.
Hi, I'm Molly, and I'm a ceramic resident. I am from Independence, Missouri. And get this started. Thank you. I am a gardener by trade, but mostly what I do during my day is I live with the elements. I live with rain, I live with snow, I live with wind, heat, cold, and so does the earth. My work is being influenced by the forces of nature, erosion. Where does the water go? I want to know where the water goes. I want to know how it goes there. I'm interested in how a plane of water sheds itself. A plane of land sheds the water from itself. When I'm building these pieces, I'm utilizing simultaneously addition and subtraction. I'm very interested in following where it's going. I don't feel like I have a supreme intent of each piece when I'm making it. This is a place I visited on the way here. This is off of I-70 in Oakley, Kansas. This is called Monument Rocks. This is part of the inland sea of North America. And these chalk formations have been exposed for a really long time. What I like about this is how the water has eroded and how the wind has eroded and how they have different sensibilities. I'm interested in not mimicking that in my work, but I'd like to show the tension of that. I'd like to show where the water's going, how does it stay captured, where is the collection of it. I'd like to also say that I hope my work is hopeful and has some comfort, but I'm also realizing how water is in the world, especially in the Midwest, and I think it's a little dark, so I might investigate that as well here about how its depletion is a really critical thing. I am going to be using some wood and paper here as well, so I don't know how that's going to manifest itself, but vessel as a landscape seems to be the way I can relate to the world right now, as I'm in the landscape most of my days. So come by and visit. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lola. Let's figure this out. Okay. So I'm a painter. I paint large-scale landscape paintings on fabric. I'm interested in challenging the traditional approach to painting.
I directly paint on fabric, but sometimes it's used fabric, pattern fabrics. And the idea is I bring them together to create an immersive installation. I'm interested in playing with the depth of foreground, background, and extending my paintings onto three-dimensional space. I'm particularly interested in challenging Western landscape painting history and its dominant gaze on nature and animals. Lately, sorry, the picture's a little blurry, but lately I've been interested in the representation of domestic and livestock animals. And so I'll be working on sketches and kind of thinking about the narrative in my work. This is a solo show that I did in Lake George Arts Project. And I wanted to talk a little bit about myself. I'm originally from France, but a lot of my work is related to my childhood. I grew up in a commune in India, and so I lived there for 8 years, 5 to 13 years old. So a lot of my work is interested in the relationship between utopia and dystopia, but also kind of illusion and reality. Is that it? No, there's these pieces. These pieces were in the show that I showed just before. Oh, they're on the wall, on the other wall. And so they're napkins, they're vintage table napkins, and on them I painted these small oil paintings. So a big part of this work plays on also this staged and like ideal, attractive side to the work, but then when you look inside the pieces, there's always dead animals. That's it. Thank you.
Trying to find my piece of paper. Here we go. Through a cataract stare and the slipped-up broken back of a mare, you can stand in the black Midwest. Miracles beheld on a billboard next to a population sign of less than 300 people, which is crooked from the land that it is cemented into. The billboard is at least 3 years old, waiting to see a miracle. Before and after, I collapse and start again down a road that is sometimes the way home. This time, the sticky feeling is too much, and I quake at the thought of needing to start again. And that again, there is rot in the sweetness of the destruction, but I can only phoenix so many times, as I am completely made of ash. What is a monument you cannot live without? If you could monumentalize revenge, I would lay my burdens down and become the most devout follower. Piety would be my name, for there is nothing truer than a human's need/desire/want for a so-called justice on their own terms. I wear it behind me, out of sight, but for everyone to see. I am told they love to see me wear it. The question, when do you think about vengeance and how does it show up in your life, is more of a question of significance. What is dull and what was sharper than you imagined? What can you glance over and what is seared into the fleshy soft parts of you? What can you put down and what was mistakenly affixed itself into your clothes? At times we don't get to decide the vendetta. It has been eagerly waiting for us in our beds at the end of a very long day. It is living with us as an ornamental wrought iron fantasy on the windows of our ego. It is steeped in the milk of our choosing with the treat that our mother made. Do people see it? Do I not? Who wants to be my observer, my witness? But please, let me start again while you talk me through it. I am angry with the familiar bitter taste you say you don't like, but we both know I learned and earned it from you. I remember my own sweetness. Do you remember your favorite blue? What is that smell of blue that smells truer than you? And maybe I found a bag deep enough to hold enough of me for you. The smell of the rot and the guava chasing the pleasure and gagging on the possibility. The possibility of me running away after knocking on someone's door, asking permission to live a lie. I see us laughing on the porch. I have to leave even though I know the good time is just starting. Swishing the spit in a dry mouth to form a sentence that left even myself wondering, kicking up the dust as I step, 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 step my way home, knowing that I left all my things behind. And yet, I never turned around. Thank you.